Hey YouTube, today I present to you a long overdue comparison video between the Pixel 4a 5G, OnePlus 8 Pro, and the Pixel 3 XL, which I am upgrading from. I recorded this around December of 2020 and have since sold the OnePlus 8 Pro and kept the Pixel 4a 5G. Some of you guys may find this bizarre, but if you're interested to know why I ended up with the 4a 5G, stick around and I'll let you know what I liked about each phone compared to the Pixel 3 XL and why I stuck with the 4a 5G despite its inferior specs. In the beginning of this video, I will do more of a comparison between the 4a 5G and the 8 Pro, and then add in the 3 XLs since I was deciding which phone to upgrade to from the Pixel 3 XL. First, let's compare the speakers on all three phones. They all have stereo speakers, and between the two new phones, I wanted something as loud as the 3 XL. Sound quality would definitely be a plus. It's probably hard to tell, but from my testing, the 8 Pro definitely is louder than both Pixel phones. But to me, the 4a 5G has better spatial sound and to me provides an overall better listening experience than the 8 Pro or the 3 XL. I'm not sure if anyone really cares about power on or power off performance, but I recorded power cycling the phone, and surprisingly, the Pixel shut down and powered back on much quicker than the 8 Pro. One reason I opted to go with the 4a 5G is because the Pixel phones other than the Pixel 4 has a really good fingerprint sensor and worked way better than the 8 Pro's optical fingerprint sensor. Camera performance on both phones are good, but with the 4a 5G, Google's camera app does way better overall and doesn't require you to tinker around with photos as much as OnePlus's camera app. I did try using Gcam on the 8 Pro, but it was buggy and didn't seem to provide as consistent results as the Google camera app on the Pixel. And I wasn't able to get Gcam to work with a double tap to capture feature, which is a big negative in my book. Both phones seem quite responsive to me, and the increased refresh rate and resolution is noticeable on the 8 Pro, which some of you guys may notice. While showing you guys the difference in the size of the phones, here's the pluses and minuses to each phone, and hopefully this will help you decide which phone better suits you. So the advantages to the 8 Pro is that it's very well built, has a nice heft to it, has a hardware slider switch for putting the phone in vibrate silent or normal mode, has a dual SIM slot, warp charging which charges the phone faster, more built-in storage and RAM for background apps, IP68 rating, very customizable software, and a faster processor. Oxygen OS was actually a pleasant surprise for me, and I definitely wouldn't mind using it again. The downsides for the One Pro, however, for me were that the camera app isn't as polished as Google's, not being able to use Gcam as a default double tap to capture app, and the battery life not being as good as the Pixel 4a 5G. The rest of the downsides is just me nitpicking and was really for helping me decide which phone to go with. The back of the phone attracts fingerprints like no other. I'm personally not a fan of curved screens, and the phone is way heavier and larger than the 4a 5G, which isn't my cup of tea. Also, having slower updates compared to Pixel phones was something that was a deterrent for me. Once you get used to monthly updates on Pixels, it's hard to go back to a 2 to 3 month update cycle on other Android phones. The Pixel 4a to me has better speakers, feels nicer to hold in my hand since it's not as tall as the 8 Pro, better camera and OS experience to me, lighter in weight, seems just as responsive as the 8 Pro, but best of all, has really good battery life. I can get 24 hours of battery life no problem, while on other Android phones I've had before, they last maybe 18 hours max before needing to charge, which was a huge game changer for me, and it's cheaper. Downsides for the 4a 5G is smaller storage space, no IP rating, which isn't a big deal for me, lower refresh rate and resolution, and slower processor. One thing I did mention or test is gaming performance since I don't play games, but I would imagine that the 8 Pro would be a better choice in this situation. So it really comes down to what you're looking for in a phone. To me, the 8 Pro is the phone you're looking for when you want all the bells and whistles, but with the potential compromise of not having as good of a software experience. But the Pixel 4a is the daily driver that you want to use, which does most of everything well, and you can just use it straight out of the box. If I were younger, I would probably have kept the 8 Pro, but now that I'm older and not into modifying or tweaking stuff as much as I used to, the Pixel 4a 5G is more suitable to me. After using this phone for about 6 months, everything is still working well. The phone has slowed down a little bit, but definitely isn't considerable. It happens with all phones for me. And I did somehow get a scratch on my screen within the first month or two of owning it, which makes the screen seem a bit fragile. So what do I like about the 4a 5G over the Pixel 3 XL? As I mentioned before, the battery life on the 4a 5G is phenomenal versus the abysmal battery life on the 3 XL. I prefer the hole punch camera versus the notch display. The screen to body ratio and the overall performance to me was the same, if not better. I think the biggest issue I had with the 3XL is the fact that Google decided to cheap out and include the phone with only 4 gigs of RAM instead of 6 gigs, which meant that background apps would always close. And of course, right after I purchased the 4a 5G, the battery meter on the 3XL remained the same, which I fixed by pushing after quite a few tries on the bottom 1 inch of the screen, side to side. The Pixel 3 XL does have a higher resolution and nicer screen, but it doesn't really bother me. However, what I really missed from the Pixel 3 XL is the wide-angle front-facing camera. I really hope Google brings that back on other phones. I hope this was helpful for anyone looking to purchase either one of these phones. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon.